Gamers, what's going on? Today we'll be doing a unit guide for every single unit in set 10. So the goal of this video is to take you through each unit, tell you what their role within a team composition is, talk about their spell, I might not say it verbatim, and then talk a little bit about itemization. Now again, itemization and how strong things are is very meta dependent, but the point of this video is to just give you the idea of how these units are supposed to be played, just to get you guys set up at the beginning of set 10, because there's so much information out there on set 10, so much information to learn, and it can be very overwhelming. So I think this video can be helpful for anybody who hasn't gotten to test loads of PvE. Now, why should you listen to me? I've been a Challenger player since set 4, been making educational content since the dawn of time, and I've played over 100 games on the PvE server, and so I've gotten to test a lot of these units. So without further ado, let's just get into it. And first up, we have Annie. So Annie is a AP carry. She is a very good early game carry that you want to play in the early game, obviously, and you'll have some reroll angles without the throughout the set. She is a carry. She's an emo and a spell weaver. If you guys want to know more about traits, I'll have a separate video for that. This video is going to be so long already. So she has Disintegrate. Her main thing is her active. It just deals some magic damage to her current target. And then every forecast, she gains some attack speed and throws an additional cast. If there's only one unit left, she will throw them both at the same target. If there's more than one unit left, it'll go to a nearby target. Anyways, very good at killing frontliners and that sort of thing. When you play Annie, she wants to have blue buff is very strong, but if you end up playing a lot of emo units, you don't necessarily need a mana generation item at all. I don't recommend Sojourn on her because, again, you really don't need mana generation items unless you just want to slam a Sojourn and you're just playing her for tempo. But if you're going to reroll her, if you build a mana gen item, probably blue buff because emo already reduces their mana. Sojourn is fine as well. Sojourn, I'll talk a little bit about items here already. Sojourn is the best mana generation item in the game right now. So if you want to build it just because it's a good item, that's great. I won't get too far into it, but essentially Sojourn is so much better than blue buff right now because they made a big change to blue buff, where blue buff no longer refunds mana. It just reduces your mana cost, gives you that little bit of starting mana, and then you gain damage whenever you get takedowns. But Sojourn, what's amazing about Sojourn is it's good on AD and AP units, and most of the AD carries are casters in this set. So if you don't know which mana item to build and you're trying to play flexibly, it's almost always Sojourn, because nearly every unit in the game can use a Sojourn, but not every unit can use a blue buff. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. But you can go full damage when you play Annie, especially if you're going to dip into the vertical emo. So things like blue buff is good. Things like Giant Slayer is very good because you're stuck hitting frontline. Things like Jeweled Gauntlet, Death Cap, all those things are going to be great for you. And one other thing to note is that she does have this attack speed mechanic built in. So if you want to build, like, especially if you get the Static Shiv augment, if you want to go like Static Shiv stacking, Rageblade stuff, she is very good at stacking that if you want to build those as a kind of flexible items for later on your game. Cool. Let's talk about the Corkster. And Corkster is an 8-bit and a big shots. He is a reroll carry, or you can play him as sort of like an item holder to get to like Caitlyn or something like that, or Ezreal or something like that, because you can go ahead and stack up 8-bit early on in the game. And so his ability, Blown to Bits, he deals some physical damage to his current target and adjacent enemies, and a very important, he does wound them. Wound is reducing their healing. So if you end up playing like reroll Corki, you don't actually have to build healing reduction on the front line. So that's actually very convenient if you want to play the Corkster. So Corkster, he's an AD carry. He gains a lot of AD from his traits. And whenever you reroll him, you end up plugging in a lot of traits that also gives you more AD, like KDA and that sort of thing. Big Shot gives you AD. 8-bit gives you AD. So I actually don't recommend building a Deathblade. I think he's very good Infinity Edge user because he does just gain so much natural AD. I think Giant Slayer is great on him. Rudans can be a fantastic item because, again, he does gain so much passive AD. Things like Rageblade are fine on him. Things like Sojourn are fine on him. Just standard AD carry items are going to be great on him, but I think you would probably want to lean more to IE. That can be patch dependent, but I do think IE is pretty good on him. Okay, here we have Evelyn. Evelyn is a crowd diver and a KDA. Her ability is Whiplash, so she deals some magic damage to her current target and then gains a lot of attack speed that decays over 4 seconds. And then while it's active, she actually heals herself. I haven't really gone into headliner effects. I guess I will talk a little bit about headliner effects. A lot of these units, they just gain APs, as the ones we've already missed. AP, gain some AD, and then Evelyn gains some health and some AP. I'll talk more about the units that have very specific headliner effects. Most of the headliner effects are just stats, but some of them have really unique things like Mordekaiser, which we'll get to in a second. So if you want to play Evelyn, Evelyn is a frontline carry. She's very good at holding items for Zed or holding items for any frontline carries. If you want to build her like Titan's BT as an item holder and then get to your Zed, get to your Kayle, get to whatever, that can be very good. You know, she is AP, but a lot of the in-game frontline carries are AD, like Zed, Kayle, Viego, they're all AD. So if you end up building AD-esque items on her as an item holder, like a Titan's BT IE, that could still be great because it still helps her crit. She attacks a lot, and she will gain the stacking attack damage if you build Titans on her. But if you want to actually carry her, things like QSS can be very good on her because she gains all this attack speed naturally. You don't want to build something like a Rage Blade. You don't want to stack that on there because QSS already gives you stacking damage or stacking attack speed anyways. It can go really well with your extra attack speed. But you could build like you can go like full damage, like Hodge, Jeweled Gauntlet, QSS can be a very good combination. You know, having a Giant Slayer can be nice because she's stuck in frontline. But anyways, frontline items, and yeah, she's good to go. There's definitely gonna be some reroll comps out there at some point. Okay, so up next is we have Jinx. She is a punk and a rapid fire. Very good reroll unit. Most of the time you'll play Jinx, you'll play her as a reroll, but she can be a good item holder for a lot of your in-game AD carries. So she has her ability is she just swaps between her minigun and her rocket launcher. And her passive is she gains stacking attack speed. It scales with AP, but don't build AP on her. If you end up building like a Rage Blade and a Static Shiv, because you're doing like the Static Shiv augment, she's very good at applying it. And it does actually raise her AP to a level, because her AP scaling is terrible. But if you actually build those two items, it'll be 5 to 6-ish% on each auto. So it actually does raise it a little bit, which is quite nice. She attacks like 70 times per fight. So that actually will get you to that attack speed cap pretty quick. That's the only thing to do with AP scaling. Don't worry about that though. And then rocket launcher, when she switches to a rocket launcher, her attacks deal bonus physical damage. So and when you want to, in her headliner effect, if you're going to reroll her and play her as your main character, miniguns grant 1% extra attack speed, and then rocket launcher deal an extra 10% bonus damage. So itemizing Jinx, you don't need to build a Rage Blade on her because she stacks so much attack speed already. But there'll definitely be patches where you want to build Rage Blade. She's very good at the Static Shiv stacking strategy if you want to do that. I did that last night. It was very fun. But other than that, some itemizations that's great on Jinx because she is stuck in your frontline is an Infinity Edge is great on her because, again, she gains so much AD, very similar to Corki. She gains so much AD through her traits that an Infinity Edge is going to be a great item. Deathblade is fine too. Giant Slayer is great. You definitely need Armor Shred in your build if you want to carry her as a main character. So main carry, if you need to put a Last Whisper there or just build an Even Shroud. Even Shroud is great to put on your frontline. I really like doing that. And then just building like a QSS Giant Slayer IE, that can be a great build for you. So just standard backline 80 carry items, you'll be good to go. Okay, Kennen. At the time we were making this video, Kennen is one of the best frontline units in the game, one of the best one costs, but we'll see how this works out. He's a 3-trait unit. He's True Damage, Superfan, Guardian, something important to note, again, we'll talk more about traits in a different video, but True Damage, they have a bling effect. You'll see this bling bonus. If you put an item on a True Damage unit and you have True Damage active on your board, then it will give you an additional effect, and we'll talk about that in a second. That is for all True Damage units. So what he does, he discharges 2 jolts over 2 seconds. Each jolt deals some magic damage and to a random enemy within range and stuns them. So he will hit one target and will stun them. That's how this reads out. If he has a bling bonus, he selects a second target and also stuns them, but for only 80% of the damage and the stun duration. His headliner effect is he gains some health, and then each of the jolts actually heal him for maximum health. Occasionally you'll re-roll this guy in like Jinx comps because Jinx can use Senna in her comp. So a lot of times you'll re-roll him in that. But if not, he's just a great, at the time of making this video, he is like one of the best chosens to get in the early game just to like plug and play as a frontliner. Very, very, very good units. Anyways, if you want to itemize Kennen, it's just going to be typically just you're just going to build standard tank items if you want to itemize them, and you'll pretty much be good to go. He's really just a tank. I'm sure maybe he'll have some patches where he kind of carries. You'll see him deal a lot of damage, but you mainly just want to play him as a tank. All right, K'Sante. K'Sante is a Heartsteel and a Sentinel. I love K'Sante. He's my favorite reroll, actually. So what K'Sante does is he enters the defensive stance, reducing damage taken by 50%. So just flat DR or percent DR. It's great. And then after that duration is over, he He slaps his target and deals a bunch of physical damage. You see the scaling at 3-star is quite insane. And then the headliner effect, he gains extra HP. If you want to reroll this guy, a lot of times you'll reroll him whenever you're playing, if you want to play like Heartsteel reroll or something like that. He is just a fantastic 2-star tank. So if you get him offered as chosen, time to make this video, just a great tank. And you can just build him like a standard tank item. However, if you want to reroll him and play him as a carry, he is a fantastic mid-game carry. Falls off very hard on stage 5. But if you want to build like Titans, Sterix, BT, that is a crazy setup, and he full-on one-shots frontliners as long as you have some type of shred in your team. So a common strategy that I've been doing, I've been playing a lot of K'Sante reroll because it's really fun, is you build those items on K'Sante, you know, like 80 frontliner items, and then you have your Aphelios and have him have a Last Whisper if you want to do that, if you want to carry him for mid-game. But other than that, K'Sante is just a fantastic tank. All right, next up is Lillia, and Lillia is KDA, Sentinel, and Superfan. Her spell is called Confetti Bloom. She deals some magic damage to adjacent enemies, so any enemy is touching her, and then heal Lillia for a for an amount that scales with AP, and then heal her nearest ally. Her headliner effect, she gains 100 extra health, and Confetti Bloom heals 12% more to her and her allies. So she is just a standard frontline unit. I'm sure there'll be patches where she can kind of carry a little bit. You know, her AP scaling is 400 right there, so it's not too bad. But mostly she is just a tank, so you want to build her as such, just tank items. But I'm sure there'll be patches where you build like, you know, maybe like a Crown Guard, Ionic Spark +1, and that can be good. You can even still build healing on her, even though she heals herself. You can still build stuff like BT, very good tank item, very good to heal her, and you're good to go. That's Lillia. Okay, and next up we have Nami. She is a Disco and Dazzler. Her ability is she, I don't know why I didn't full screen this the whole time, but whatever. She deals some magic damage and she stuns them. So one of the few forms of CC in the early game. And her headliner effect, she gains some extra AP. Her AP scaling is quite good for 450, but remember she is single target and has very high mana. So if you want to play her as a carry, you're going to want to build Sojin plus AP plus maybe a Giant Slayer, something like that, and have some magic shred into your team. Very good item holder for just any in-game AP carry. As I said at the beginning of the video, Sojin is an extremely good item on pretty much every in-game carry. So very good Sojin holder for the in-game, and you'll be good to go. Okay, Broloff. Broloff is a Pentakill and Bruiser. So his passive, he doesn't have an ability. He doesn't generate mana, so just know that. His passive, he heals for an amount that scales with AP. Heal on attack for every 1% missing health. Gain more attack speed. So for every 1% missing health, you gain more attack speed, and then the heal is flat, but it scales off of AP. Headliner effect, gain some health and gain some MR and magic resist. If you want to play Olaf as a carry, it's going to be standard frontline items. QSS, Titans, you're going to be really good to go. If you want to do QSS, Titans, Runans, QSS is just your best bet, and Titans is your best bet. It's QSS, Titans +1. And you'll be good to go if you want to reroll him. And then generally, you'll probably want to play at least 4 Bruiser, get your Pentakill active if you want to reroll this guy. He's very fun to play. Pretty solid frontliner in the early game, especially he's a great item holder for, you know, edgelords and frontline AD carries in the end game. All right, Taric. Taric is a Disco and a Guardian. Gain a shield that scales with his health over 4 seconds. Taric's next 2 attacks deal some magic damage, but the AP scaling is not very good. So if you're trying to theory craft a Taric carry build, it's just not looking so great right now. But if you end up rerolling Taric with Nami and you put a Ionic Spark on him, then he could probably do quite a lot of damage because, you know, he'll also be scaling your Nami. But I don't think at the time we make this video, you should bank on him carrying. He's just mainly a tank. His headliner effect, gains some health and some armor. And yeah, that's pretty much what he does, guys. He is just a tank. Build tank items on him and you're good to go. Sir Thomas Kinchereth is a country and a bruiser. He also does not generate mana, so your 2 1-cost bruisers don't generate any mana at all, so they're not going to be very good with mana items. Reduce each instance of incoming damage by 12, 15, 25, and it scales with AP. And then headliner effect is plus 225 health. Now, if you're just going to itemize him as a tank, I'm sure there'll be some patches, and unless the devs are just really on top of this, where you build like Titans and then like he gives them the tongue of death. You know, think back if you guys played earlier sets, like I think it was set 5 Leona was kind of the same thing. She had a very similar ability, and you built Titans and she would just win in overtime. But I think the devs are aware of that and don't want units to do that. So if its AP scaling ends up changing, his AP scaling is very bad, But if it ends up changing a little bit, if they bump that 25 to 35, I could definitely see a world where you give people the tongue of death with Titan stacking. But other than that, you just build tank items. Okay, Vi is a Mosher and a Punk. Her ability has a lot to it, actually. So she deals some physical damage to the current target, or she deals more physical damage if they have more current health than Vi. And then also she will stun them. She will always stun them for a duration and reduce their armor by a flat amount. And her headliner effect is 150 health and plus 10% attack damage. You're going to reroll Vi a lot of times with Jinx because she is a one cost. If you have like Punk chosen, a lot of times you'll play like Jinx, Vi, Pantheon, or you go Jinx, Pantheon, Twitch, just depending on how strong Twitch is on that current patch or whatever. Cool. If you want to itemize Vi, standard frontline carry items like Titans, BT, QSS, those sort of things, Sterix. But generally, you don't really put items on her a lot of times because if you're going to be a Punk reroll, Pantheon is just a superior tank. But I'm sure there'll be patches where she can carry pretty good. If you end up building carry items on her, like Cassante, she actually is very strong all the way until about halfway through stage 4. She falls off. So if you want to build her as a carry and maybe she's your chosen and then just like sell her later for Zed or something like that, that's definitely a strategy you can do with her as well. Okay, and now next up we have Yasuo. He is an edgelord and a true damage. Yasuo is a very cool unit. He has a passive and an active. His passive, Yasuo permanently gains 1% attack damage when he kills, not a takedown. He has to get the kill. He has to get the last hit. An enemy champion. The active, he deals physical damage that scales with AP and AD, but much more heavily on AD. Don't worry about the AP scaling to his current target. And then his bling bonus is very important to get his bling bonus active, especially if you want to get him stacking. Synthesizer strikes execute enemies under 15% health. So he'll get the execute, will more likely secure him the last hit, especially when, they're really low and, there's a lot of damage coming through. So you really want to have his bling bonus active. If you want to play Yasuo, just get the stuff stacking as early as possible. And he is a reroll champion, but can be a good item holder for late game units like Zed, that sort of thing. If you want to play him, standard frontline items, Titans, BT, Sterix, all that good stuff. His headliner effects are very good because he gains Omnivamp as well. So, but still BT is always good on a frontline item. So, you can also go crit like Hodge IE, QSS, something like that. That can also be a build, but you need to make sure you have armor reduction in your team somewhere because it'll be very difficult to kill frontlines once you get to stage 4 and beyond. All right, up next is Aphelios, and Aphelios is a very good unit, but they've been nerfing his numbers quite a bit. Very deserved because he has a lot of utility and he is a Heartsteel unit. So he's Heartsteel and Rapid Fire. There's a lot to his ability here. So his Moonlight Lullaby, he deals physical damage and stuns the current target for a duration and deals a small amount of damage to enemies within 1 hex. If the original target dies, stun enemies within 1 hex for 1 second. So he will also stun those other enemies if the target dies. So you want his initial spell to hit like a truck. You want it to do a lot of damage, and his scaling is insane. It's 725% of his AD, so he's a very good Deathblade user. Rapid Fire, you naturally build attack speed, so you don't have to build Rage Blade, but he is a very good Rage Blade user. Sojin is a very good item on him as well, so Sojin or Rage Blade are his best mana generation items if you want to use it. Sojin gives a lot of AD, actually gives a decent amount of AD now, and his mana cost is very high, and he gains attack speed naturally. So I actually really like Sojin. Sojin Deathblade Giant Slayer, I think, is a very good setup, and you want to have some type of attack damage shred in your team, or Sunder, sorry. So if you want to have an Evan Shroud or Last Whisper somewhere in your comp, that's going to be very good for you because he is stuck in your front line. Anyways, sometimes you'll reroll this guy. If not, he just item holds for Ezreal or Caitlyn, and you're good to go. All right, next up we have Brad, and there's a lot to Brad's ability. Brad is a Jazz and a Dazzler. You'll probably hear me refer to him as the Jazzler. So his improv, he plays a 4-note tune at random using 3 possible notes. So the Dute deals damage. The Chime heals the lowest health ally, and then he tips. He can drop 1 gold and play another note. So he'll drop a gold and he'll heal or do the Dute. He only, at the time he makes a video, he only has a 1% chance of doing that. And before we talk about the headliner effect, I just want to re-explain his ability because it can be confusing. He will throw out 4 notes and it will select each of those at random. So he could technically throw out 4 Dutes in a row or 4 Chimes in a row. Like that can happen. The tip, it only has a 1% chance each time he does it. So most often it'll be a mixture of Dutes and Chimes every time he casts. So his headliner effect though, the Finale of Bard's first cast, so his first cast per combat, spreads an additional Dute For every 8 times he has cast throughout the game, Doots deal some magic damage there. So he's a very good Sojin user. You're going to do Sojin, JD, Giant Slayer. He is stuck hitting frontline. Very good build. I've seen people do double Sojin. Gunblade is quite good as well. But you do really want a Sojin on him. You can do a Rage Blade if nothing else. But Sojin is going to be your best bet if you want to play Bard as a carry. If you want to actually reroll this guy, you do need him as headliner. Without headliner, there's no point of rerolling him. If not, you just play him as an item holder as you're going throughout the game. All right, Garen. Garen is a weird unit. He's an 8-bit and a Sentinel. He gains maximum health that scales with AP. Garen's next attack deals some physical damage, and his headliner effect is plus 400 health. Very simple unit. His AP scaling is actually quite good, so he's a very good, like a Titans BT user, Titans BT Sterix user, if you want to end up itemizing him as a carry. But usually he is just, if you're not going to itemize him as a carry, he can be like an item holder as a tank. Generally, you'll just put your tank items somewhere else because he just doesn't have really that great tank stats. He doesn't really do a whole lot. He doesn't CC. So unless you're playing him as a carry or an item holder, usually you just don't put items on this guy. Cool. Up here next, we have Gnar. He is a Mosher, Pentakill, and a Superfan. Gnar's ability, he leaps over the current target. He's actually 2 hex range, but you do typically want to put him on the front line so he takes damage. So he casts early on in the fight. He leaps over his current target, transforms into Mega Gnar for the rest of combat, and gains a bunch of health that scales very heavily with AP. So that's something to be, to consider. And deals physical damage. It scales with attack damage. His headliner effect at the start of combat, transform into Mega Gnar. If you want to reroll Gnar, it's very important to get his headliner effect because you want him to transform as quick as possible. And again, he has great AP scaling for his health. So if you're just having to put random items on him and you end up building like a death cap or something, or something like a what is this? Crown Guard? Yeah, Crown Guard. I always mix up Crown Guard and Protector's Vow. Crown Guard, then he'll break that shield at the beginning of the fight, gain a bunch of AP, and then gain a bunch of AP. That genuinely you can do that. But if you want to itemize him as a carry, you're going to build stuff like Titan Sterix. Sterix very good. GS, IE. BT can be fine, but he does gain a lot of attack speed through Mosher. But BT is just great, especially with the amount of health that he has. So that's Gnar. Very cool unit. All right, next up we have Gragas. He's a Disco, Spellweaver, and Bruiser. Boogie Hour, he heals for a flat amount, doesn't scale with anything, so you can't get that going crazy. Then deals magic damage to adjacent enemies and chills them for 3 seconds. Chill reduces attack speed. So he has a little bit of utility in here. Definitely a better plug-and-play Bruiser than the other one-cost Bruisers if you're not rerolling those one-cost Bruisers. So if you have to choose between those, you usually want to play Gragas unless you just need Pentakill or Country in your comp. Cool. Headliner effect, Gragas takes 8% less damage and deals 15% more damage. Right now, he's really just a tank. I'm sure there'll be some patches where you can do Chug Jug Gragas. Back in the day, we used to do that with Dawnbringers in set 5. So be looking out for that. But other than that, you just itemize him as a tank if you want him to tank. Very good mid-game tank. All right, Jaximus. Jaximus is an EDM and a Mosher. His ability, he leaps to the highest health enemy within 2 hexes. So he's not super great at assassinating backline, even if he starts pathing there. So he is stuck on frontline for the majority of the fight. Until he kills them, he can start leaping on backline. Magic damage to them, and then deal some magic damage to all adjacent enemies. He spins around, so he deals more to his target, and then he spins around and deals damage to adjacent. He gains 10% attack damage and ability power for the rest of combat. Headliner effect, 200 health, 220 AP. AP scaling is really what you want. But as I said, he does gain hybrid stats. Standard frontline items are going to be great on him. Titans, BT, Sterix, those are all going to be great on him, even though he's AP. Jewel Gauntlet's great on him. Giant Slayer, all that good stuff. QSS, standard frontline items. If you want to re-roll him, he can be a good carrier. If you're playing Mosher Vertical, carrying your Urgot or something like that, he can be a decent side carry in that composition. Cool. EDM has a lot to that trait, and I will talk about that on the trait video, so just look out for that. All right, next up we have Kayle. She is a KDA and a big shot. Kayle is a very cool unit. Her damage comes out very slow. She dashes up to 2 hex and fires a missile at current targets. She just dashes around for fun, it kind of seems like, because it doesn't have specifically dashes away from enemies. So I don't really know how her dash actually works. I've played her a few times. It seems like she just dashes for fun. That's cool, I guess. Fires a missile at a current target, and it deals physical damage. He has a little bit of AP scaling. It's not super great. They add in the AP scaling because she gets KDA, and KDA does give you AP. And it only deals damage to 1 target. It is mostly scaling with AD. You're definitely going to want to have items like, if you build Sojin, they specifically reduced her to 30 mana so that people would build Sojin on her. So Sojin is a very good item on her. Sojin GS IE, Sojin GS Deathblade. I think that's probably her BIS, at least at the time of making this video. Can be very good. You definitely want something to kill frontliner like GS or something like that. And you'll want maybe a Last Whisper. You know, you want some Armor Shred. She could really get stuck on frontline. And especially when you're playing like Kaisa and you're playing Ahri, they both can get stuck on frontline. So having some type of shred in your comp for at least one of them can be very helpful. So you can start assassinating the backline and you'll be good to go. All right. Next up, we have Katarina. She is a country and a crowd diver. She has a bouncing blade. She throws a blade at her current target that bounces 3 times, can hit adjacent enemies, that sort of thing. Deals some magic damage. And as always, as Katarina always does, she applies a wound, which reduces their healing. Her headliner effect, she has 200 health, plus 200 health. And the final blade bounce deals 45% more damage, so has an extra little damage effect. She actually is 2 hex range, so you can second row her if you want to. Although, if you want her to get a lot of damage off very early on in the fight, you'll probably want to position her onto the front line on the wings. Maybe not the one tanking the damage, but put her there. She can be good with frontline carry items like BT Titans, that sort of thing, but also like JG, Giant Slayer. She is a magic damage frontliner. So there we go. All right, next up is Kayle. And so Kayle is a pentakill and an edgelord. For 5 seconds, attacks deal AP, magic damage in waves at her current target and behind them. So very similar to all versions of Kayle that we've always played. She shreds the enemies when this is active, so she can reduce her magic resist on her own. Doesn't necessarily need, she don't need no man to magic resist them. And finally, she deals, a big amount of magic damage to her, to enemies around the target. So it's a little bit of an explosion on the last hit, and you're good to go. Her headliner effect, she gains some attack speed. If you want to play Kayle, she's very good with Rage Blade, very good. You can even make her like a static shiv stacker. Obviously she doesn't need that resist, but if you have that augment to do the static shiv, she can be very good with that. She gains a lot of attack speed naturally through edgelord. Rage Blade's very good. Giant Slayer is very good. Jewel Gauntlet's very good, especially for her last ability. Nasher's very good on her, so Nashers can be very good. And something to note, you don't want to build, even though she's only 30 mana, you don't want to build Sojin or anything like that, because she is mana locked whenever she goes into her ascension thing, for the 5 seconds. So if you're thinking about like perma casting Kayle, that's not really how it works. So Sojin is not going to be your best bet for that. If you end up having to build an Infinity Edge on her, it's not even that bad. I watched a Chinese VOD yesterday of somebody building Infinity Edge. You don't want to do it, but it will make her spells crit, and she does attack very fast, so she can deal some attack damage as well in your edgelord reroll type of compositions. Okay, next up we have Parthenon. He is a punk and a guardian, so he also has damage resist, very similar to Cassante. Note, it is actually lower than Cassante, which is strange. I think it's because it's so easy to hit him as a 3-star, but it is a little unusual, isn't it? Afterwards, he deals some damage to 3 enemies. He actually deals less damage to Cassante, but spreads his damage a little bit more, and you'll see him, he'll actually throw his javelin, who dealt the most damage to Pantheon. So actually hit corners a lot. Notice his AD scaling is not very good. So if you guys are thinking about this like AD Pantheon tech, it's not super good at the time of making this video. But I could definitely see some patches where you go like Titans BT or Titans BT, or especially like Titans BT or Titans something like that. And then potentially one-shotting backliners. But at the time of making this video, that is just really not reality. Very good tank in the reroll punk composition. Next up, we have Senna. Senna is a very good unit. She's very good reroll at the time of making this video. So she is a true damage and a rapid fire unit. She fires a blast of sound at her current target location, and it pulses 3 times, each dealing some magic damage to enemies within 1 hex. Her bling bonus, minus 15 max mana, and her headliner effect, plus 5 AP, and each pulse grows larger, so it'll actually hit more units whenever she, every time she casts and that sort of thing. Very cool. She's very good reroll time to make this video. Very good Sojin user, very good Jeweled Gauntlet user, very good Gunblade user, as her damage does apply several times. Very good GS user, good Archangel user, can be a good Rage Blade user if you don't want to build Sojin, and she's just in general just a pretty good carry. Pretty good at using red buff as well, because it will make her have healing reduction, and she has that stacking. Especially if you have the headliner effect, can be very nice. Senna, I really like playing Senna. Okay, next up is Seraphine. So Seraphine is a KDA and Spellweaver, and at the beginning of the PvE cycle, this unit was broken as headliner, but now she's just a solid reroll comp, solid item holder for Spellweavers and for in-game AP carries, the like. So she sends a high note to the largest clump of units that hits all units within 1 hex. Enemies take some magic damage and allies heal for an amount that scales with AP. Her headliner effect is very good, so if you want to reroll Seraphine, you really want to have her headliner. Every other cast, send another high note that deals 40% damage and 40% heals. Please note, I didn't say this earlier on in the video, but she is, headliner effects can change a little bit. I'm actually not sure if that is still her headliner effect. It is something like that, though. She gains an extra thing. Cool. So if you want to play her as a carry, you want to build a Sojin. Archangel can be very good unless you're building vertical Spellweavers. If you're only playing 3 Spellweavers, Archangel is very good. If you don't have a Sojin, things like Rageblade can be very good on her, especially if you want to item hold for an in-game Sona, if you want to play her as a 2-star carry and then move it over. But you can also, a lot of times when you play Seraphine, unless you're rerolling her, you'll just build Ahri items on her, which are going to be like Sojin, JG, Giant Slayer, something like that. Blue buff is a great item onto Ahri, but it's not as great onto Seraphine. So that's why, like I said at the beginning of the video, you're best off just building Sojin anyways. Sojin is almost always a better slam for most units, and you'll be good to go. So that is Seraphine. And I'm going to take this opportunity to tell you guys, if you are gaining value from this video, something you can do that is cost-free, that'll help me out so much, just press that like and subscribe button real quick right now. If you're gaining value, man, it would help me out so much, and you would just do me a real solid. I appreciate you guys. Anyways, let's keep going. Let's keep it rolling, fellas. And next up, we have Twitch. Twitch is a punk and an executioner. He throws a bottle at the current target, which deals some physical damage to enemies within 1 hex. It explodes into 6 shards, each dealing some magic damage to a random enemy within 2 hex. Each enemy critically struck by the bottle creates 1 more shard. Headliner effect gains attack damage and gains critical strike chance. So Twitch reroll is a comp that is floating around on the PBE right now. If you want to play Twitch reroll and you want him to be your primary carry, you definitely want him as your headliner or chosen, and you want to build some type of critical strike on him. He is an executioner, so his spells can crit once you get it activated already, and he gains some critical strike chance. But things like Guardbreaker are going to be amazing on him because you can get his effect. So like things like Guardbreaker and then building like a Deathblade +1, you're going to be really good to go. You can do Sojin, you can do Rageblade as a mana gain item. You do Last Whisper, going to be super good. You definitely want to have some type of shred or some type of armor shred in his comp as well. Very good unit to reroll. Okay, Amumu. Amumu is an emo and a guardian. There's actually a lot to Amumu and definitely some itemization techs that maybe I haven't figured out all of it, but I'll talk a little bit about some of his itemization here because it can be quite unique for a tank. So his passive, when attacked, he gains 2 armor, stacking up to 30 times, so he can gain quite a bit of armor. Active, he deals some magic damage that scales with AP, but more so scales with armor. At the time of making this video, it's 160% armor scaling, so that's pretty good. Magic damage, he deals that magic damage to adjacent enemies. Every 3rd cast hits enemies within 2 hexes and stuns them for 1.5 seconds. So I'm just going to show you guys something. You definitely want to have emo active. So let's say you are playing... He's amazing if you get his headliner effect because he gains magic resist, stacking as well with it. But if you end up playing like headliner Annie and then you want to like main tank an Amumu and you end up rerolling him later or something like that, he can be very good if you're doing like the attack speed Annie build because she does gain so much attack speed right there. You can do like a Nashor's Shiv +1 type of build, or maybe even a Gunblade with that. Keep your Amumu alive. Solo front on your Amumu. Build things like Titans. Build things like Bramble. Build things like Stone Plates. And if you can keep him alive and he gains so much mana from emo, he can deal a lot of damage and be very good as long as you are shredding for him. So that's something to keep in mind. Very good tank, but can have some carry potential on some patches. Very good as a solo frontline tank in the early game and in the mid game because he gains a stacking effect. And in early and mid game, people will be playing a lot of frontline units and they'll surround your guy and your guy won't die super fast. So if you can surround them, he'll do a lot of damage, do a lot of stunning. So you definitely want to solo frontline him if he's your main tank. Now, when you get into the later stages of the game, a lot of times you just can't solo frontline. So keep that in mind as well. Amumu is very cool. Okay, Ekko is a very good unit. He has 3 traits. He has Sentinel, Spellweaver, and True Damage. He deals some magic damage to enemies. At the beginning of PvE, it was a lot of magic. His AP scaling was crazy. But he deals a small amount of damage to enemies within 2 hexes and stuns them. So very good CC for a 3 cost. Very good 3 cost. And he gains a shield that has very good AP scaling for 4 seconds. His bling bonus, while shield is up, heal 100 health every second. He has a lot going on for a 3 cost, doesn't he? His headliner effect, 200 health and 20 AP. And remember, he is a Spellweaver, so he gains loads of AP naturally, so you don't need to build AP on him. Although if you end up building a Crown Guard or you get stuck with the Death Cap on him, that's still going to be very good. He deals damage and he has very good scaling on his shield. It's kind of insane. So if you want to itemize him as a tank, you generally just put tank items on him, Bramble, that sort of thing. He's not really the best Warmogs user because he heals for a flat amount and his tankiness is mainly built into his shield. So going like, Bramble, Dequal, Spark, Bramble, Dequal, Titans, Titans BT, like you can do some weird stuff with him if you want to build him kind of like a frontline carry, but he'll still like main tank. But I think he's great as a main tank in the Sentinel or he's a great main tank in a Sentinel comp, especially, but in a Spellweaver comp and True Damage, very, very much better in those comps. I don't know why I can't say words, but putting like a Ionic Spark plus like 2 Giga Tank items like Bramble and Dequal, that's probably going to be his BIS for the most of the set as a main tank in an AP comp. Very good unit, a very good plug and play CC unit as well. All right, Lulu is a Hyper Pop and a Spellweaver. So what she does is she fires a bolt towards her current target. It deals some magic damage to the first enemy it passes through, and then deals some more magic damage to the second. So an additional unit next to them, and then every third cast will stun the 3 nearest enemies. Very good utility here. And then deals lower amount of magic damage instead. So it actually deals less damage whenever she's stunning. And her headliner effect gains 25 AP. She is a Spellweaver, so she will naturally gain a lot of AP. Generally, if you want to play her as a reroll carry, you'll itemize her a lot. If not, you'll just toss a Sojourn on her. She does have very low mana, but if you're not itemizing her as your main carry, she won't be getting kills as often. So she's very good as just like a, if you're playing a Spellweaver comp, you have an extra Sojourn, toss it over there. Very good utility, very good, helps out your team a lot in the Spellweaver comp and in Hyper Pop. And her casting a lot is very helpful, especially for Hyper Pop, because you can gain mana for your other Spellweavers, your other Hyper Pop units. But if you get her as a headliner or you want to reroll her, she can be very strong, fully itemized. You want to go like Sojourn or Blue Buff plus a Jeweled Gauntlet plus GS, something like that, and you'll be good to go. All right, next up is Lux. I love playing Lux. Lux is very fun, and we'll talk more about all of her cool stuff when we talk about EDM. But she fires a beam at the furthest target, dealing some magic damage to all enemies hit. Her headliner effect, she gains critical strike chance, and this ability can crit. So you don't have to build Jewel Gauntlet on her. Although Jewel Gauntlet is still great. Don't sleep on just building, Jewel Gauntlet is still great even when your ability can already crit. But she is very good with crit items like Hodge. Like having some healing on Lux is very great. It takes her a while to kill the whole team. So having a Hodge, which involves your critical strike, is very good. Like a Hodge, Sojourn, Jeweled Gauntlet, very good setup. Hodge, Sojourn, Guardbreaker. Building a Gunblade with a Sojourn, something like that is great. Something that's very important is the only thing I'll really talk about EDM is you don't actually have to build mana gain items on Lux, because with the EDM trait, she will be casting every 8 seconds anyways, and she can double cast, so she can cast and then cast again. The way the EDM trait works, it doesn't destroy your mana. It will, after you cast the EDM, it'll refund your mana wherever it was before you cast the EDM cast. A very common strategy is to just build full damage onto Lux and just have her one shot whenever she does cast, because you just want to play around those EDM procs. That can be very good. I can definitely see some tech where you build Nashers, because she getting those EDM casts, she'll just be attacking really fast. So look out for that tech as well. Lux, it will shoot it at the furthest enemy, her laser. So make sure that you position around that. Okay, next up we have Miss Fortune, and Miss Fortune is a Jazzler and a big shot. She deals physical damage to her current target and deals some more physical damage to the closest enemy behind them. If either die, she gains attack speed for 4 seconds. You want to have a lot of damage on her, and her headliner effect is plus 25% attack damage. So building her, you want to build a lot of damage. So you want to have like a GS Deathblade, something like that is going to be good. IE is fine as well, but you definitely want to be able to kill that front line, and you want to have some type of MR or armor shred, because getting kills early on in the fight is what's going to help her scale a lot. Now, she can be a very good Rageblade and Sojourn user as well. Rageblade, because she gains that attack steroid, and you can just stack up the Rageblade, especially if fights are going to go very long for you, especially if you have some healing built in your augments. But Sojourn can be great too, because you gain that attack speed, and then boom, 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 and then you're ready to go again. 3 to 4 autos, and you're ready to cast again. And you can be to go. And Sojourn has pretty good AD scaling now. So Miss Fortune pretty good. Very important to position her in front of their carry, because you want her to start bouncing the bullets onto their carry as quick as possible. So you want to be same side as their carry if you can, whenever you're playing MF. Okay, next up we have Mordekaiser. Mordekaiser is a pentakill and a sentinel. A lot going on with him. He gains a shield with very good AP scaling, and then deals some magic damage. He actually sits here and starts playing his guitar, so he stops auto attacking to adjacent enemies over 3 seconds, and then afterwards deals some more magic damage. It's just like one little burst at the end. When Face Melter kills an enemy, gain 4% ability power and attack damage and 4 armor and magic resist. That is not permanently stacking, that is just in the combat. But more importantly, his headliner effects, if you want to reroll him as a carry, and I actually have a VOD of me playing this, it was one of my first games, so much fun. His headliner effect, he gains 100 health and 5, he doesn't gain the 100 health permanently, but he gains 5 AP when this ability kills, permanently gains 1% ability power. Or sorry. When he kills a unit, he gains 1% permanent ability power. He doesn't gain 5 every time. I stacked this up to 80 times, I believe, when the game that I played. So I had 80 extra AP. And remember, his shield has insane scaling. So if you want to play Mordekaiser, he's very good with Titan's BT +1. Very, very, very good build if you're rerolling him. But you can also go like Sterix even, because just getting... He's just so tanky. He has so much health. He's so tanky. But building like a Spark on him is great as well. I wouldn't necessarily recommend building like Jeweled Gauntlet or anything like that. You just want to have more damage in your backline for him. So like standard frontline AD carry or standard frontline carry items. But also you can just build tank if you want to. But I wouldn't necessarily recommend building full tank when you're playing headliner. Bramble is very good on him as well, because Bramble, while his shield is active, he'll just be so tanky. Okay, next up is Neeko. She's a KDA superfan and a Guardian. Cosplay the highest health ally and gain a shield with pretty good AP scaling. And a plus 5% of the ally's health for 4 seconds. When it breaks, deal some magic damage of its initial value as a magic damage to adjacent enemies. Okay, her headliner effect plus 200 health, and then Neeko gains 20 mana to the ally she copies. So it's very good if you combo this with like a Thresh and you put like a Warmogs on a Thresh. She will copy Thresh, which is cool, and then Thresh will gain mana if you're playing her as headliner. So that's something that's interesting. But if not, a lot of times you'll be playing her in KDA reroll. So if a lot of your tanks will die, and if she doesn't die first, then like maybe it'll copy Seraphine, then Seraphine will gain a bunch of mana. That's something you can think about as well. She is mainly just a tank. You're just going to build tank items on her, and a Spark is generally how you want to itemize her. She's really just a tank, but I'm sure there'll be some times where she can carry. Okay, Riven is an 8-bit and an edgelord. She is a frontline carry. For 6 seconds, she gains a shield that scales with attack damage and actually pretty good AP scaling as well. That's why Titans is going to be an amazing item on her. And then attacks deal some physical damage to enemies within 1 hex of her target. Her headliner effect, she just gains a bunch of stats. If you want to play Riven, Titan stacking with a BT, so good. Sterix, so good. QSS, good. Standard frontline items, reroll carry, or reroll with like Yone and Kayle and that sort of thing. Very, very, very good. Okay, Samira. Samira is a country and executioner. She has a lot going on. Thrills and kills, 100 mana. Her passive attacks that critically strike grant a stack of style, up to 6 stacks. Each stack grants her attack speed. Her active is she deals a lot of physical damage to her current target, and then additional physical damage per stack. Afterwards, she resets her style. So you have to get her style going each time. Very good with crit item. She is an executioner, so you don't need to build Infinity Edge. So if you're going to play her as a main carry, you want to have executioner and build like a Last Whisper, Guardbreaker, Last Whisper Hodge. Those are going to be amazing for you. You really want to have a Last Whisper. GS, if it fits into your comp, can be great, but generally you don't have room for it. So you're going to do like Last Whisper, Hodge, Deathblade. Deathblade is probably her best item. But you know, if you end up building to build Giant Slayer, that can be great as well. You can build Rageblade because she does gain some stacks while she's firing her gun, I believe. She gains a small amount of stacks, but she also just has loads of attack speed naturally. So you can get her just like her attack speed steroid being encouraged, like choo, 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 choo. Then she does her thing, resets her style, and you know, she could just go kind of crazy, kind of like wild. If you want to build Sojourn, that's okay too. All right, next up we have Big Sett, that's wet. He is a Heartsteel, Bruiser, and Mosher. He has the punchline. He gains a flat shield. You can't scale it with anything for 2 seconds. Increased by 1 for every 4 missing health. Remember, he is a Bruiser, so he has a lot of health. Deal some magic damage to the current target. He does his like punch, and it'll do the indicator, which will be the target right in front of him. And then additionally, he also deals some magic damage to enemies in a cone around them. It's like a 1 hex cone. It's a very small cone. Headliner effect, he gains health, and then at 50%, gain 50 max permanent health. I'm sure there'll be some metas where you reroll this guy as a Mosher or a Heartsteel or a Bruiser. That can be very cool. Generally, though, he's just a tank. Build tank items on him, you're good to go. But I can definitely see some patches where we're going to have One Punch Man where you go like BT, Titans, JG, something like that. Or like Titans, Hodge, JG. I can definitely see it happening, guys. And you build a lot of Bruisers. That can be very cool if you have his Headliner effect active. But generally, he is just a tank in the Mosher line. All right, next up we have Godgot. He is a country and a Mosher. He fires from his fingertips. Okay, he has very low mana, but don't build blue buff on him. For 8 seconds, convert bonus attack speed to attack damage. Something important about that. He is a Mosher. Moshers naturally, as an innate, gain attack speed. So that's kind of cool. Attacks deal some physical damage, which has a small amount of AP scaling. In a cone, just a 1 hex cone, it's very small. So he'll mostly only hit his current target, but it can hit adjacent allies sometimes. And grants Urgot 30% of the damage dealt as a 5-second shield. So when he activates it, he gains a shield. It's very cool. His Headliner effect, he gains some attack damage and some Omnivamp. At the time we make this video, Urgot is the best carry in the game. On the PvE, he is very broken. If you want to play him as a carry, he's very good with like, even though he has a lot of Omnivamp, BT is still great on him. Definitely not necessary. Like Titan Sterak's +1, I think is an amazing build on him right now. Deathblade is still great. He has great AD scaling. IE is great. Giant Slayer is great. He's stuck on frontline a lot. You probably don't want to build Last Whisper on him unless you go Last Whisper IE Titan, something like that, or Last Whisper IE BT, Last Whisper IE Sterak's. But you do want to have some type of shred on your team. Usually, if you're playing him, you're also going to be rerolling Samira. So if you just put the Last Whisper here and just make sure they're on the same side, typically use second row Urgot, and you'll be good to go like this because you want to get some armor shred in your composition when you play him. All right, next up is Vex. Vex is a pretty good reroll at the time of making this video. Vex is an emo and an executioner. Her ability, send a shadow to the current target that stuns enemies within 1 hex for 1.5 seconds. Then it deals some magic damage to enemies within 1 hex. Her Headliner effect plus 25 AP. So you build her as a standard backline AP carry. Sojin, IE, GS, good to go. Not IE, I mean JG. You're good to go. She is an executioner, so you don't need to build JG. You can build Guardbreaker instead, or Hodge or something like that, to scale up her crit a little bit more. You can do death cap, that sort of thing. I just don't really like death cap as an item. I just don't think it's very good. Okay, next up we have Yone. Yone is a crowd diver, edgelord, and heartsteel. At the time we make this video, he is not very good. You definitely, when you play him in the reroll, you itemize more you play more for Riven, and that's probably he probably will remain that way for the most of the set because he is a heartsteel. I might get egg on my head in a bit if they buff him, but he gains stacking movement speed and Omnivamp for the rest of the combat. That's pretty cool, right? We don't really have a lot of mechanics like that, stacking movement speed. He slashes twice, dealing some physical damage, so he will apply that twice to enemies in a cone each time. It's a pretty small cone. It's like a 1 hex cone. His Headliner effect, he gains some health and attack damage. Standard frontline items, guys. QSS, Titans, BT, Sterak's, that sort of thing. Cool. Next up, we have Ahri. Ahri is one of the premier AP carries. She blows a kiss at her current target. It deals some magic damage and briefly stuns them. It's a very small stun. It's more like an interrupt. If the target has been kissed before, she deals much more magic damage instead. Very good AP scaling. She is a Spellweaver. She has a KDA. Those are traits that give you a lot of AP scaling. So she's very good with items like Jeweled Gauntlets. Her best mana gain item is probably blue buff, but she is still fantastic with Sojin. Either way, you still have to auto twice before you cast, but either one is fine. But general, you're probably gonna have Sojin on her because Sojin is just a much better early game slim. But blue buff is great on her. It's probably her best item. So blue buff, JG, Giant Slayer are gonna be good to go. She is designed to not be stuck on tanks, and that's why she has that effect where she deals so much more damage on the second cast. So it does take her a long time to deal her damage. So you want to make sure you have an additional carry. A lot of times you'll play her with a Kayle, and a Kayle will be disrupting their backline while you're taking your time killing the front line, or you're playing like rerolls and Seraphine can hit the backline, that sort of thing. So she definitely cannot solo carry. You want to have somebody carrying with her. All right, next up is Akali. This is KD8. Akali is a very confusing unit, and she has two forms. She is KD8, Executioner, and Breakout. So what form she is will just be denoted by whichever trait you have more active. So if you have more KDAs or more true damage, that's the one that she'll transition to. And then if there is a tie, the way you break the tie is like, let's say for whatever reason you have a tie between, I don't know, Ahri and Senna for whatever reason, then it's just the unit you put in most recently. So since I put Senna in most recently, it would turn into a true damage. But if I took out Ahri and then put her back in, it would make her into a KDA if there was a tiebreaker. Okay, cool. So KDA, she throws a shuriken at the furthest unmarked target, and then she marks them whenever she throws a shuriken. She dashes to every marked enemy, striking them for physical damage, and then dealing some additional physical damage to enemies that are dashed through. It's much less the enemies that get caught in the crossfire. It's more damage to the enemy that she already has marked. And it's important to know the spot that she'll end is where she threw her shuriken. So for example, if she was over here and I don't know, there was a Twitch and a Seraphine on the enemy team, and if it's kind of weird. I actually selected her traits. So if she throws her shuriken at Twitch, she will throw it here, and then she'll dash through Twitch. However, if she had already thrown her shuriken at Twitch and he didn't die, and she throws her shuriken at Seraphine, what she will do is she will come up here and she'll dash through both of them, and then she'll end next to Seraphine. I'm not sure which order she'll try to dash through, but she'll end next to her most recently marked target. So you'll be good to go there. If you want to play her as a carry, standard frontline items, JG, IE, Titans, or not JG, sorry, IE, Titans, BT, something like that, Sterix, something like that. She is AD, so just frontline AD carry items. Typically you'll second row her, you don't want her to take damage first, and you'll be good to go. Next up, we have True Damage Akali, and True Damage Akali is the weaker of the two versions at the time of making this video, but I'm sure that can change. She deals physical damage. She has 60 mana to 3 enemies, 3 times split between the 3 closest enemies, within 3 hexes. Each enemy that survives all waves refund mana to her. So if she's having trouble killing the front line, she'll just cast a whole bunch. So Bling bonus, she heals for 20% of the damage dealt with 3-point strike. And her headliner effect, she gains some health and gains some attack damage. Very good attack damage scaling. Standard frontline AD carry items, Titans, IE, BT, Sterix, those sort of things. You're going to notice a trend. A lot of the frontline carries use the same items. So just standard frontline items, you'll be good to go. Typically, you want a second rower. You don't want her to be tanking. Something to note about her her attack, the way it kind of works. So let's say, like, imagine Akali is like up here instead of, imagine Akali is like up here and you're fighting the Mordekaiser. If you have a carry right here, and you don't have no other tank, and like your other tanks are like over here, like your other tank is like over here. If Akali is in front of Mordekaiser, sometimes she'll just one-shot your backline because it hits closest 3 targets within 3 hexes. If she walks up at all, if she ends up on this line, she will hit your backline. So you really need to not be on the same side as Akali if you see her in your matchups, if you want to play against her. And then I have a whole positioning guide on the channel, and I talk a lot more about KDA Akali and some of the other units on how to out position them. So make sure and check that out if you guys want to know how to position better. It was my most recently uploaded video at the time of making this video. All right, next up we have, and I'll probably leave in the end card. Next up we have Blitzcrank. He is a Sentinel in a Disco unit. He's one of the premier tanks. He deals magic damage to nearby enemies every 2 seconds. It's not a whole lot, so don't like tech too hard on trying to build him as a carry. Active, he gains an insane amount of shield based off of AP for 5 seconds. Blitzcrank's passive deals damage every second rather than every 2 seconds, and deals an additional 1% of the target's maximum health as magic damage. So probably pretty good into reroll tanks or like really big tanks, right? Obviously. Headliner effect, he gains 150 health, and the passive always deals maximum health damage. So even when his spell is not active, very good Crown Guard user, very good with Spark, in your like TF comps or your Spellweaver comps, that sort of thing. Very good at itemizing with stuff like that. If you want to get wacky and build him as a carry, you could do like a Titan Spark, I don't know, BT or something. You could get real wacky. But in general, he's just a really, really good tank. one of the premier tanks. Just put tank items on him. Okay, Caitlyn. Caitlyn is an 8-bit and rapid fire. She fires shots at the 4 furthest enemies. Shots deal scaling with physical and AP, but much more physical damage. So don't try to get too wacky with the AP stuff. And to the first enemy hit. So she will target the corner, but if there's a bunch of tanks, she will get stuck on frontline. Cool. Headliner effect plus 5% attack damage and fire an additional shot that deals 60% of the damage. So yeah. She's very good as a headliner if you want to play her as your carry. You don't have to have her as headliner if you want to play her as your carry. She has an 8-bit effect, and they definitely want you to have the 8-bit stacked. So she's not a super great carry to like pivot into hyper late game without stacking 8-bits. So typically you want to play like Corki early game to get into this. But if you hit an early Caitlyn, you can start stacking it pretty early in the game as well. If you're just playing like a Senna comp with Sentinels and then you end up hitting an early Caitlyn, you can just toss Caitlyn in your comp with a Garen and you start getting stacks and you can open up the door to play Caitlyn as your in-game carry. Maybe some patches will be different where you don't need to stack 8-bit, but by the time we make this video, it does feel like if you don't have some 8-bit stacked, she doesn't feel very strong when you pivot into her. So you want to build items like Infinity Edge, Deathblade. She has great AD scaling. Giant Slayer is going to be good for you. Last Whisper is going to be good for you. Building items like Sojourn can be good. She does net passively gain a lot of attack speed. She has high mana cost. So you want to get her to her second cast as quick as possible. So I think Sojourn is very good on her. So standard backline AD carry items and pretty good Sojourn user. Okay, Ezreal. Ezreal is a big shot and a heart steal. Ezreal is really fun. He has 40 mana, so he blinks away from current target and deals some physical damage to them. And every third cast, he casts his ultimate and he fires it in a line to all enemies. He hits all enemies hit. It's like a one hex radius, like the hex and then 1 hex around it. That he can hit people with his third cast. Very, very fun. And he will jump away. He'll jump away from people diving in the backline. So that's pretty cool. Very good AD scaling. Very good. I really like putting crit on him so he can like one-shot the backline. I really like going like IE Hodge, like because he takes a long time to get his damage off, so I really like to have some healing on him. So like IE Hodge +1, very good. I like having Sojourn on him, so he's just casting a lot, and Sojourn is great. So just standard backline items, and you'll be good to go. He can kill the backline, so you don't get stuck on frontline too much. But you can build stuff like Last Whisper and stuff like that as well. But I really like IE Hodge +1 on him. Seems to be pretty good at the time of making this video. All right, next up we have Karthus. He's an Executioner and a Pentakill. His ability, he deals magic damage to the 5 lowest health enemies. And gain 10 mana each that die. His headliner effect gains 15 AP. Whenever you play Karthus, you need a lot of frontline for him. You need him to cast at least twice to win a fight, and probably you need him to cast 3 times. You want to just build him balls to the wall damage, or have 1 mana gain item. That mana gain item would be Sojourn or Adaptive. If you have a lot of damage, blue buff, technically can be fine, because you can gain, 50 mana potentially. But his mana cost is really high. So you want to do like Sojourn or Adaptive almost always. If you wanted to build a mana gain item, but if not, you just want to build a lot of damage. Guardbreaker, Hodge, +1. That's going to be very good because he is an Executioner. Guardbreaker, Hodge, Deathcap. Guardbreaker, Hodge, Archangel. Guardbreaker, I don't know, Giant Slayer, very good. One thing to note about him, he can get countered by Alawi because Alawi will just summon tentacles. So that can be kind of spooky. All right, Poppy. Poppy is a weird unit. She's a carry, guys. She's not a tank. She is an emo and a mosher. Her passive, she gains attack damage based on bonus health. So she's a very good Sterix user. So Sterix is probably her best item. Active, she gains armor and magic resist for 6 seconds. Hammers the 3 nearest enemies. She'll actually just dunk on them like Darius, dealing some physical damage, and then heals for some health as well. That scales with AP, but the AP scaling is very small. If this kills an enemy, she'll slam an additional time. So she could potentially just dunk all over the map. It's very fun watching her play. And then her headliner effect plus 150 health and 10% attack damage. Cool. If you want to play Poppy as a carry, you'll do things like Titan Sterix +1, and that's probably her best in slot. You can build full damage. You can build a Warmogs on her. You will need an additional carry whenever you play her. So sometimes you'll play like you're playing like an emo comp, you're carrying a Vex, and you have a Poppy side carry. Or you're playing like a Mosher comp, and you're carrying like Urgot and Poppy and Yorick or something like that. So very fun unit. All right, Thresh is a country and a guardian. He stuns the largest group of nearby enemies. So he will stun the largest group, but he has a preference to nearest enemies. If there's a tiebreaker or just generally has a preference. And he deals some damage that scales with AP. The AP scaling is okay. Magic damage to each, and then Thresh heals for a flat amount. You cannot scale that flat amount, but plus 50%, it does scale in this way with total damage dealt. So if you want to go like DPS Thresh, there is some tech there, but generally you'll build him as a tank. Headliner effect, plus 100 health, and reduce maximum mana by 25. Very good headliner tank. So if you already have a backliner, let's say you're playing like Karthus or something like that, or Ari, and then you get this offer, you already have them 2-star and you get him offered as a headliner, do not sleep on that. His headliner effect comboed with like a protector's vow will guarantee that he casts twice as long as he doesn't just get immediately blown up. So that is very cool. Standard, you'll just build tank items, but I can definitely see some tech out there where you kind of build them like some damage. So look out for that. Okay, next up is TF. TF is Hustle and Shuffle. He throws 21 cards that scales with attack speed. Divided between the current targets and 3 nearest enemies, they reduce magic resist by 1 and deal some magic damage. Headliner effect throws 3 extra cards. Very good headliner effect. So if you want to play him as a carry, look to play him as headliner, but not necessary. You could play Blitz headliner or whatever, or, you know, it's not necessary, but it is very good. Okay, you're going to be very tempted to build loads of attack speed items on him, but I think he's actually, his best in slot is 1 attack speed item plus damage. Like Rageblade or Nashers, I think, is his best mana gain item. It actually doesn't scale his cards too much, but I just think that it's better than building a Sojin. But Sojin is also fine because he does still scale off attack speed, and attack speed item is very good. Think about building him just like you built a Azir. Very good Gunblade user as well, because he does have loads of instants of damage. So, you know, a common build is like Rageblade or Nashers plus Gunblade plus JG. You know, you can do like Rageblade or Nashers with a healing augment plus JG Giant Slayer, very common build. You can build Static Shiv on him. It's not super amazing, but it is good as well. And you'll be good to go. All right, next up is Diego, and Diego is a Pentakill and an Edgelord. He slams on a nearby hex. He deals physical damage to enemies within 2 hexes and marks them for 5 seconds. Scales a little bit off IP, not very good though. Marked enemies take 10% increased damage from all sources. So a very good duo carry with Karthus. I should have talked a little bit about Karthus as well with duo carries. Karthus's duo carry is always either Viego or Akali, and you typically want to play KDA Akali if you can. And the reason is you want to get units low for Karthus. So Diego will jump into their team, getting a lot of units low. He can potentially hit backline as well, and he marks them, helping Karthus execute, right? And then additionally as well, if you're playing a KDA Akali and you can get her stuff active, she will jump into the backline, get the backliners low, and if she doesn't assassinate them, then Karthus surely will. Anyway, so that is just something to think about whenever you play Karthus. Okay, so his headliner effect, he gains some health and some attack damage, and the Viego's attacks on marked targets deal extra physical damage. Standard frontline items, guys. Titans, BT, IE, QSS, IE, Hodge, you know, like all those standard frontline items. Typically, you want to second row him. He walks up, boom, blows him up. You're good to go. I love playing Viego. He's very fun. All right, Big Zachary. He is an EDM and a Bruiser. Let's bounce. He's one of the premier tanks in the late game. He bounces on 3 nearby enemies. Each bounce deals some magic damage, stuns them for 1 second, and heals Zachary, which scales with AP. So that's pretty cool. Headliner effect, he gains 150 health and plus 10 AP. I'll probably talk more about him in the trait video, because EDM is the most complicated trait in the game, probably. That and probably Superfan. But anyways, tank, guys, build tank items. You're good to go. All right, Zed that is dead. He is a crowd diver and an EDM. He marks the current target and spawns an untargetable shadow that has attack damage, and it scales with Zed's attack damage for 4 seconds after a brief delay or when the marked target falls below 15% health, which scales slightly with AP, but not very good. But, you know, it does scale a little bit with Titans. You'll get up to like 17% if you build a Titans. Deal an additional physical damage to that target. So he just assassinates people, right? But he does get stuck on frontliners, so that's important to know. Headliner effect, he gains 100 health. Zed Shadows gain 10% attack damage and 10% attack speed. So yeah, so his Shadow scales with his AD. You're going to want to build standard frontline items on him. Titans, BT, Sterix, IE, Hodge, same stuff. Like, you guys have noticed a trend. A lot of these units use the same items. So yeah, he blows people up. GS good on him as well, because he can't get stuck on frontline. Just standard AD carry here. Okay, Alawi, and Alawi has a lot going on. Alawi's legendary. She has the drums of beat. She has a passive every 3 seconds. Alawi's tentacles deal magic damage that scales with her armor and magic resist. Very good at stacking armor and magic resist on this unit. I'll talk a little bit about the tentacles. The tentacles, you can move them around. You can do a lot of cool things with them. You can put them on the front line to give your team more front line. You can put them on the second row to give your team more damage. You can put them on the back rows to have corner bait, although they won't deal damage whenever you do that. And it's very cool. So the tentacles are very, very unique. Active, she gains 100 armor or gains armor and magic resist for 3.5 seconds and revive or fully heal the lowest health tentacle. So that's why you can put these out here for frontline, and they'll just keep dying and reviving. Gives you so much frontline for your team. And it's also good counter to Karthus and Akali if you want to do a corner bait, stuff like that. Cool. She leaps at the nearest enemy and deals magic damage in a large circle, and the tentacles slap in unison. Her headliner effect, she gains 10 AP and just gains a bunch of stats, and her tentacles slam every 2 seconds rather than every 3 seconds. So Alawi, you're typically just gonna put a bunch of tank items on her, but if you want to do some weird carry tech, I'm sure you can do like a Bramble Sterex, Spark, or like Bramble BT Decoy, and then have like a static shiv in your backline. I'm sure there's some carry tech out there, but in general, she's just an amazing in-game tank. Just so much utility, great units. Okay, Jhin, the Maestro. Let me put it over here so you guys can read his ability. So he is a Maestro and a big shot. It's Concerto of Demise and D minor. He has a lot going on. Okay, so his passives generate 10 additional mana, but you can still build Sojin on him. If your bench has 4 grand rifles, begin conducting instead of attacking. Each rifle fires at the same rate as the Maestro and deals physical damage. Every 4th volley deals 200% damage. He has a lot of 4 in his lore, a lot of 4 in this. Active, put 1 grand rifle onto your bench of your empty slots. So it's important to note you do need to have 4 open bench slots. In the game, we'll tell you that when you play Jhin. It'll be like, hey, open up your bench. Hey, sell, hey. It'll like, keep telling you. It'll be barking at you like a dog. Okay, headliner effect, you gain some attack damage. And then combat start, you put 1 grand rifle onto your empty bench slot. So very good headliner effect, but you don't need headliner to play him as your in-game carry. So when you play Jhin, you want to have items like IE, Deathblade. You want to have like a GS on him. You don't necessarily want to have Last Whisper on him. You want to have armor shreds somewhere else in your comp, probably. You can put a Sojin to get your rifles really going really fast. So something like a Sojin IE Giant Slayer is going to be a very good build. Sojin Deathblade Giant Slayer can be a very good build and to be good to go. Jhin is very good in-game carry. Okay, Kanye, he's got a lot going on. He is a Heartsteel Edgelord and a wild card. Fear the Reaper. He dashes and deals some magic damage. He's very similar to Set 4 Kayn, if you guys played him in Set 4, to adjacent enemies and chills them for 3 seconds, reduces their attack speed. If Kayn only hits 1 target, he will immediately dash again. In Set 4, he would just spin like crazy. He'd just spin to win. Headliner effect, plus 5 AP to Shadow Assassin, and Shadow Assassin rewards extra 2 gold, and Ross rewards extra 1 health. Headliner effect is not very good. So Kayn is an interesting unit. I'll talk about his wild card real quick. If you lost the fight, then he will gain Rost, and Rost, if he gets 2 kills, he will heal your tactician for 1 health. So you really have to have him fully itemized. He has to actually kill. It's not just tank downs. And then if you win the fight and he has Shadow Assassin, you will gain it's either 2 or 3 gold per 2 kills that you get on him. But remember, you need to itemize him to gain that. So he's like more like a win more type of champion. But he can definitely be your in-game carry, but I wouldn't recommend taking him as your in-game chosen if you have the option to take a different 5-cost chosen. You just naturally 2-star him and it'll be better with that. But if he needs to be your chosen, that's fine. Okay, so if you want to play him as a carry, you're going to be like JG, Hodge, QSS, Spark, BT, Titans, all those things. You guys know, standard frontline items, but he has AP, so that's important to note. Okay, Lucian. Lucian is one of the premier 5-cost AD carries. He is a Jazz and a rapid fire. His ability, Arpeggio. He fires 14 shots, does scale a little bit with attack speed, so you can do some type of Rage Blade tech, but whatever. Each shot explodes on the first enemy hit, dealing some physical damage that scales with both magic and physical damage, but much more with physical damage. His scaling is actually pretty low, but he does fire quite a bit. It does hit his target and explodes a little bit. It reduces their armor by a flat amount. If Arpeggio ends early, gain mana based on the number of unused shots. And then Headliner effect gains some attack damage, and Arpeggio fires 3 more shots. So that can be very good. Anyways, when you itemize Lucian, you want to put items on him like IE, GS, Sojin's actually fine on him, Healing is fine on him, like Gunblade is fine on him. Runans, it actually does apply each of his shots at the time he makes his video, so Runans is a very good item on him. Standard backline AD carry stuff. He does fire it for those targets. You'll need to make sure you're positioned away from their carry whenever you want to damage them. Something I forgot to mention about TF. TF, you want to position your TF in front of their carry, so same side as their carry, because after you kill frontliner, he'll start to spread his shots to the back line sometimes. So we want to make sure he's on the same side. Okay, next up we have Qiyana. Qiyana is one of my favorite units. She is a crowd diver and a true damage. There's a lot going on with Qiyana. So sample and remix. Copy 1, 2, or 3. It depends on your star level. So if you have her 2-star, she will copy 2 items of the current target's items and throw them to an ally. So if she casts her ability, you want to make sure you scout every round to make sure she's in front of somebody who has items. So you just want to make sure she's in front of their main tank so you can CC their main tank and steal their items. Really nuts, especially if they have like radiant items or something. And then you deal a lot of physical damage. She has very good scaling, and knock them back a very small amount. If the target has no items, she deals true damage, additional true damage on top of that. Very good scaling, by the way. And then knock them back to the edge of the board instead. Her bling bonus is very important. If she has an item on her, after sample and remix kills an enemy, she has to kill. She has to last hit with sample and remix. Very important. A lot of people on PB hasn't understood this, and it's caused a lot of frustration for people. She has to last hit with the ability. She copies the item and creates one permanent component from that item. She doesn't create the item permanently, but she gets one component. Very cool. Headliner effect, she gains 5% AD. When Qiyana copies an item, she permanently gains 5% attack damage. That's not when she gets a permanent item. That's when she copies an item at all. So if you get her as a chosen early stage 5, something like that, very strong, very good with items, but also a very good splash unit. So if you end up wanting to play her as carry, things like IEGS, Titans BT, Sterix, all those things, very, very, very good. And just make sure she's positioned in front of units with items. But if not, she'll just one-shot whoever she's in front of if you itemize her. But also remember, she's a very good splash unit just to play in your comp. And just put her, like, if you have a leftover component and you have a true damage in your comp, just put a leftover component on her and she'll start farming you items. Sometimes it can be very cool. Okay, Sona has a lot going on. We're at the end of this. I knew this video would be an hour long this time. Holy crap. Hopefully we can keep it below an hour and 20. Okay, she has a Mix Master and a Spellweaver. For some reason on tactics.tools, it'll only tell me it'll only give me the description of her shielding effect. So I'll just tell you the shielding effect and then I'll just off the dome try to tell you the other effects. So she has 3 effects. You could switch her between shield form, attack speed form, and damage form. Each of her forms do different things, and so her passive attacks instead send a beat to an ally, healing them for 4%, 7%, 100% of their maximum health. That is if she is the shielding one. If she is attack speed form, she will gift attack speed to allies every time she attacks, and she will still deal damage. If she is the damage form, she will gift ability power to her teammates whenever she's attacking. And then her active, she will send a beat to all allies, granting them a shield that scales with their AP for a very small duration. It used to be longer duration. It was so broken, but it's very small duration now. So when you look at stats and you see like she'll shield for 200 or for 20K, that can sometimes be fake because the shield is very short duration. So keep that in mind. If she is the attack speed version, she will just grant more attack speed. I believe that's one I'm actually most unsure about off the dome. And then if she is the damage form, she will damage the entire board. So she can like full one-shot the board. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, all right. Her headliner effect, gain 5% attack speed and gain 5% attack speed and then grants 1% attack speed every time she attacks. Her best in slot is Rageblade. You can do like Rageblade Sojin plus a damage item can be really good. Rageblade Sojin plus Archangel if you're doing healing or attack speed forms. Very good with the Spark Augment, or not the Spark Augment, the Static Shiv Augment. So Rageblade is her best item. And then after that, mana gain item, AP, and you're good to go. Cool. Yorick is so cool. Yorick is a pentakill, Mosher, and a Guardian. Get in the Pit, featuring ghouls. He summons 9, 10, or 25 headbanging ghouls that pile towards the center of the board. And something kind of cute about the ghouls, if ghouls are left alive at the end of the fight, it'll follow your little legend when you're walking around. It's pretty fun. Each of the ghouls deal physical damage over 3 attacks. Ghouls damaged sunders them for 3 seconds, so you don't need to build like a Last Whisper on York if you want to carry him or something like that. And also he can give your team a Last Whisper. Very cool. Every other cast, he also summons a big ghoul. That's their health scales a lot with AP. You can actually do some weird AP tech, although I don't recommend it. I played it last night. It was okay. I don't recommend it. He's much better with AD items instead. and then deals physical damage. It's very cool. His headliner effect, plus 50 health, and then summons 2 extra ghouls. The bigger ghoul is bigger and deals 10% extra damage. York is a great utility unit, great plug and play. He has very good traits, Guardian, Mosher, Guardian, or Pentakill, Mosher, Guardian. And then he also has a Sun Ring. So if you just want to plug and play him, very good. If you want to play him as a tank, just build tank items. That's also very good. He's going to cast a lot, give you a lot of value. But if you want to play him as a carry, you're going to build items like BT, Sterex, Titans, standard for line items. His ghouls will heal him. So if you have a BT, he'll just be omni-vamping like crazy. And he has omni-vamp from Mosher already. So it's pretty cool. If you even build a Gunblade, he's just doing all these. His ghouls are attacking everywhere. It's just healing himself, healing a lot of people. It can be very good. But yeah, something like a Sterex, Titans, even if you want to play him as a carry and you build like a Bramble on him, which is very good tank item in the in-game. So yeah, you can build him as a carry, you can build him as a tank, you can just plug him into your comp for free. All right, next up we have, and lastly, we have Ziggs. Ziggs is a Hyper Pop and a Dazzler. Chaos reuses his ability. He throws a bomb at the current target that deals some magic damage. It splits into 5 smaller bombs that can go to different enemies or can hit the same one. That shred their target for 4 seconds. So he has natural shred built in. So very good to plug and play into your comp, especially with being a Hyper Pop, because Hyper Pop is a 1 out of 1 trait. You can build more Hyper Pop, but very good plug and play unit, especially if you're playing an AP comp and you don't have shred. Like a lot of times you're like, oh no, I need shred. You can put this in. But also he's a good carry on his own. If you get him chosen or you get him 2-star and you want to move items over to him, you're good to go. Each cast increases the number of smaller bombs by 2. Headliner effect plus 5%, plus 5 AP, and then reduce max mana by 10. Very good Sojin user. If you get him as your headliner, he can also use blue buff. So just Sojin, JG, Giant Slayer, Sojin, JG, Hodge, Sojin, JG, Guardbreaker. You're good to go. And that is Ziggs. Anyways, guys, that is it. That is it. I just talked for an hour. If you guys thought this was helpful, then please subscribe. Please like the video. Comment below. Helps me out on YouTube. But yeah, I'll do a couple more of these videos. One's on traits and one on augments. And then we will be launching the set, guys. I'm so excited to play TFT this set. I hope you guys are excited. I hope you guys will check out my streams. Hope you guys will check out the videos in the future. If you guys have time, of course. I just appreciate you guys coming by anyways. But man, I am so excited to make some more TFT content and to do some more TFT stuff. So appreciate you guys. Follow me on my socials, all the good stuff. Bye-bye. Bye.